Welcome to the Carmelite Quotes podcast, where we share Carmelite wisdom to encourage and inspire. Today's episode is especially meaningful. We're celebrating the feast day of Saint Thérèse of Lisieux, the Little Flower, whose life and teachings have touched millions around the world. But this episode comes at a unique moment, just 2 days after the beatification of Blessed Anne of Jesus, a towering figure in the Carmelite reform and one of Saint Teresa of Avila's closest companions. In this episode, we'll explore the profound connection between Saint Therese and Blessed Anne of Jesus. We'll reflect on a pivotal dream that Therese experienced on May 10th, 1897, where Blessed Anne appeared to her with words of comfort. We'll also take a moment to highlight Anne's foundational work in France, particularly her role in establishing the Carmel in Dijon, where centuries later, St. Elizabeth of the Trinity would enter. And finally, we'll touch on the fact that St. Therese was named a Doctor of the Church, a recognition of the depth and significance of her teachings. Let's get started. Let's start by delving into the life of Blessed Anne of Jesus, or as she was known by her baptismal name, Ana Lobera y Torres. Born in 1545, she became a vital force in the Carmelite reform. After St. Teresa of Avila's death, it was Anne who shouldered the responsibility of carrying forward the Discalced Carmelite movement. Her leadership wasn't simply organizational. Anne's work in expanding the reform to France, Belgium, and the Netherlands was deeply spiritual. In October 1604, Anne led a group of 7 Discalced Carmelite nuns from Spain to Paris, marking the first monastery of the Theresian reform outside Spain. Among the group was Blessed Anne of St. Bartholomew, who had been St. Teresa's nurse and companion, and Blessed Mary of the Incarnation, Madame Ackery, who was the catalyst behind the foundation of France. Together, these 3 women founded the Carmel of Paris. Madame Ackery played a pivotal role, persuading the nuns to expand their reform into France, and it would eventually lead to an expansive network of Carmelite monasteries across Europe. As Blessed Anne of St. Bartholomew recalled, Anne of Jesus and Madame Ackery admired one another's leadership. Anne marveled, asking, "How has a Spanish religious who does not understand French been able to acquire so much authority over persons of so different a language and customs?" While Madame Ackery wondered at Anne's influence across the nations. How could one woman have sufficient influence in France, Rome, and Spain to make so difficult a foundation? The Carmel of Antwerp was also established under Blessed Anne's leadership. She gave the black veil to Blessed Anne of St. Bartholomew, sending her from France to Belgium's capital to become Antwerp's first prioress. This Carmel later sent nuns to Cologne, where St. Edith Stein would enter. Through Anne of Jesus' vision and efforts, the Carmelites of Antwerp extended the spiritual legacy of the Theresian reform, impacting future generations of saints and martyrs throughout Europe. But Anne's foundational work wasn't limited only to France. Think about the extension of the Carmelite reform across the world. The blessed martyrs of Compiègne, who were martyred during the First Revolution, trace their lineage back to Blessed Anne of Jesus and Blessed Mary of Jesus crucified, who founded the Carmelite monastery in Bethlehem in the Holy Land. She entered the Carmel of Po. All the French Carmelites can trace their spiritual ancestry back to the pioneering efforts of Blessed Anne of Jesus, Anne of St. Bartholomew, and Mary of the Incarnation. So before we dive into St. Therese's dream, let's take a moment to walk through her life. Just a little survey. St. Therese of Lisieux, also known as the Little Flower, was a French Discalced Carmelite nun who entered Carmel at age 15 and lived a hidden life of deep faith and trust in God. She is best known for her little way of spiritual childhood, which emphasizes doing small things with great love. Despite living a short life of only 24 years, her writings, especially her autobiography, Story of a Soul, became a worldwide spiritual classic, and she was declared a doctor of the Church for the depth of her spiritual wisdom. So now let's turn to the remarkable dream St. Therese experienced on May 10th, 1897. At the time St. Therese experienced this dream, she was nearing the end of her life. She was enduring immense physical suffering from tuberculosis, and she felt deep spiritual desolation. She was in the throes of what she described as a night of faith, feeling abandoned by God and spiritually tested. In the midst of this trial, Blessed Anne of Jesus appeared to Therese in a dream. Therese recounts this dream in her own words. She writes, "Without the least hesitation, I recognized Venerable Anne of Jesus. Her face was beautiful, but with an immaterial beauty, a light it didn't receive from without, but was produced from within. This wasn't just a comforting presence. Anne spoke directly to Therese, offering her words of reassurance and confirmation. In the dream, St. Therese asked Blessed Anne, 'Mother, tell me further if God is not asking something more of me than my poor little actions and desires. Is he content with me?' And Anne's response was deeply affirming. 'God asks no other thing from you. He is content, very content.' For Therese, this dream was a moment of profound spiritual consolation. The appearance of Blessed Anne of Jesus confirmed that St. Teresa's little way, the simple acts of love and trust she offered to God, her little way was blessed indeed, and no further demands were being made of her. This dream beautifully links the spirituality of both women, showing how Anne, a key figure in the Carmelite reform, affirmed the simplicity and depth of Teresa's path. It's impossible to speak about St. Therese without mentioning her profound impact on the Church. In a moment, we'll take a look at her doctorate. In 1997, St. Therese was proclaimed a Doctor of the Church by St. John Paul II on the centenary of her death. This title is a significant recognition of the eminent doctrine of her teachings. As St. John Paul II wrote in his apostolic letter, Divini Amoris Scientia, Thérèse of Lisieux offers a unique understanding of the gospel, St. John Paul II wrote. He continued, her spirituality, deeply rooted in the love of Christ, causes the Church to recognize in her a guide for all who seek the face of God. Her teachings, often summarized in her little way, may seem simple on the surface, but they contain profound spiritual wisdom. Here's what St. John Paul II explained further. Her teaching not only conforms to Scripture and the Catholic faith, but excels for the depth and wise synthesis it achieved. Her doctrine is at once a confession of the Church's faith, an experience of the Christian mystery, and a way to holiness. What a profound thought from St. John Paul II. This recognition of Thérèse as a doctor of the Church not only acknowledges her role within the Carmelite family, but also her universal influence on the spiritual life of the Church. As we bring this reflection to a close, it's clear that both Blessed Anne of Jesus and St. Thérèse of Lisieux offer us immense spiritual treasures. Anne's work of reform laid the foundation for the growth of Carmel in France and beyond, including the Carmel of Dijon, where St. Elizabeth of Trinity later flourished, including the Carmel of Compiègne, which traces its links back to the work of Blessed Anne of Jesus. And meanwhile, St. Teresa's little way of love and trust continues to resonate across the world, offering hope and guidance to millions of people. Together, these two women show us that holiness is found not in grand gestures, but in the hidden, humble acts of daily life. And as we celebrate their lives today, we're invited to reflect on how we too can follow this path of love, trust, and surrender. So thanks for joining us today. As always, we invite you to please share this episode with your friends and followers, and don't forget to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or your preferred podcast platform. And don't forget to check out our website at carmelitequotes.blog to learn more about St. Therese, about Blessed Anne of Jesus, and all of our Carmelite saints. Special thanks to Sean Beeson for our music today. And here's a final thought. May the simple love of the little way and the legacy of great reformers like Blessed Anne of Jesus inspire us to find God's presence in every small act, trusting that our own humble offerings can change the world. Blessings from Carmel.